so hard saying goodbye to my friends. You know, I didn't think I was really all that lonely until I've had to say goodbye to people. I think I need to go to the grocery and get some things. I've got some stuff left behind to save my spot. I need to get some Windex. So let's go into town. So I just went into this coffee shop thinking that it was a different coffee shop. And I was like, hey, do you have smoothies? And they're like, nope, that's the place across the street. And I was like, well, what do you guys have? And I ended up talking to them. Apparently they had like a wild night there. Someone had like a fight and it was just a wild party. And they're just like, people are crazy. Anyway, it was a good time. So I ended up getting me a churro waffle and a latte. Definitely recommend checking out the local scene in Buena Vista. Let's check out my churro waffle. Get it out of the bag. Oh, I was trying to show you guys. Oh, I'm making a mess. I have a problem. Alright, I got my fridge organized and cleaned. So now I'm going to turn that back on and get these cool. So I don't always just filter my water. I do buy it from the store. And we're going to start with this one because I busted it and I had to rip a hole. I couldn't get the top off. So we're just going to fill up, get the water for the dogs. And I talked really funny there. Water for the dogs. Landed finally. I've been to this campsite or this campground so many times. I've never landed this good of a spot. I landed the best spot in my opinion in this whole 4-mile camping area. It is site number 1. If you would like to access the GPS location, check out my Patreon. I put all of my GPS locations with pictures and information on each campsite that I stay at that I think is worthy to note on my Patreon. Okay. I'm so tired. Alright, I think I'm gonna chop up some peppers. I love these multicolored ones, they're so good. They're probably GMO, but they're good. A few of you have asked me to go into more detail about how I do it with the 3 dogs. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and start with the ramp as far as the tent goes and show you how I tie off my dogs at a campsite like such. And I just have to laugh at my dog real quick because he's rock climbing. Oh, he was rock climbing. So when I first got the rooftop tent, I was really nervous about how I was going to do this with the dogs. And honestly, I've kind of done a trial and error. I started with a thermarest and a yoga mat, and that seemed to work pretty well, except it wasn't really dog claw friendly. And so I was shredding my yoga mat and my thermarest. So I ended up going to Lowe's and I bought this rubber mat and I cut it to fit the length of the ladder. Now I did have to cut this because it was in a square and it had these little lines perfectly, and it's actually quite perfect for the ramp here. And I liked it because it has these little holes that the dogs can grip a hold of, and I'll just use zip ties to connect the pieces. And I've zip tied the bottom part to the ladder itself, and then I've got these clamps that I can clamp to the top. And so when I'm ready to pack up camp, I just unclamp the top collapse the ladder and then wrap the rubber mat around and then clamp it back and put it on the back. So when I'm at camp, especially one like this where I've got plenty of room, I just try to find ways where I can tie the dogs off so they each have their own space. Most of the times I don't have this kind of a campsite and the dog's leashes get tangled, and that's my least favorite thing to deal with. But in campgrounds like this, where I have a lot of open room and a lot of things to tie off on, I usually tie off to the hitch cargo area to a tree, or I've got the front recovery D-rings on the front of my 4Runner that I can connect the leash to like that fence post, for example. And Agron has wrapped himself up around that tree, but I usually try to get 2 or 3 leashes for the third dog, since I have not bought a third runner yet. I had one, but it didn't last, so I just haven't replaced it yet. But this is, oh look, he just untangled himself. Yay! But yeah, this is great because they each have their own little area. They have a tree to pee on, and it works out perfectly. I reworked the underneath of the platform. I raised it up a little bit so I have more room, and I'm hoping that this will work. All right, we are off to the Cottonwoods Hot Springs, and I'm having my first lady-owned Toyota meetup with some ladies who own some Toyotas, hence the name. So excited! Anyways, I don't know how much I'll be filming because we will be in the hot springs, so we'll see, but I'm excited nonetheless. Princess bases. Look down. Look. I'm static. Got static all over the place. So I'm sitting here in this parking lot killing some time. I'm working my way into the town, into Denver. I'm gonna buy a couple things that I can only get in Denver, and then I'm picking up my mom at the airport tomorrow. So yeah, I'm excited. I get to see my mom. I wanted to talk a little bit about some of the things that have happened this week and how it relates to full-time nomading, overlanding, living full-time on the road. I've talked a little bit about this in the past, and I've actually had something very similar happen to me that I'll be talking about here in just a second, happen to me in the past. And it is something that is constantly on my mind, and I know it's on the mind of a lot of other people, like my parents and so on. So I thought I'd go ahead and talk a little bit about some stuff when it comes to safety. Oh, just yanked my hair out of my head. When it comes to safety on the road. Being a solo female nomad, I'm constantly mindful of my surroundings, what's going on around me, where I'm gonna camp, where I'm gonna hike, what I'm gonna do. Anyways, I wanted to talk a little bit about safety as a solo female who lives on the road, overlanding in her 4Runner with 3 dogs. So a few things that crossed my mind are safety and where I'm gonna stay, what I'm gonna do, what's going on around me. I try to be extra sensitive to what's going on. I think I do have an advantage because I have 3 dogs, but I will say that having 3 dogs is not always an advantage. Sometimes it's a distraction. So I have to rely on the fact that the German Shepherds will be a deterrent, and they will be an alarm system. Earlier this week, I had something happen. It reminded me that I need to be extra careful, and that even when I am trying to be careful, that some things are still out of my control. So earlier this week, I met up with some really awesome gals from the Lady Owned Toyota Club. We had so much fun, and it was really nice getting to know other women with other like-minded women, and just having some socialization, because it has definitely been a challenge for me, if not feeling lonely lately on the road. So that was really awesome that I was able to meet up with some friends. However, that night when I got back to camp and I was getting ready for bed, I felt like somebody was watching me. I shook the feeling a few times, but I kept waking up in the middle of the night like something was not quite right. But I didn't really see anything. I didn't hear anything. The dogs were acting normal. So I just was like, okay, maybe it's just my imagination. Well, the next day, I find myself all alone out here, which is fine because I was camping out there alone anyways, but there was no neighbors, no other hikers. It was exceptionally quiet and still, when it has not been that way the entire time that I was staying at this campground. As I was at camp, this gentleman walked up and said, "Hey, this is Natalie." And I remembered him from the last night. It was just a real eerie feeling. I tried to make small talk, or participate in the small talk, because I didn't want to be rude and be like, what? But when I started questioning how he found me, he got real weird, and it just kind of confirmed my feelings of being watched the whole night. Now, I'm not saying that this gentleman followed me home and watched me, but it just was too coincidental and too close for comfort. So I ended up packing up camp and getting the heck out of Dodge. I was actually kind of shooken up by that. That's really the first encounter I've had since being a nomad that's really just freaked me out to the point where I wanted to leave. I mean, I've left sites before because of weird stuff, but like that one hit close to home. And I don't know if that's because of the incident that happened to me when I was in Washington a few years ago. And if you haven't seen that video, I was overlanding in my RAV4 with my German Shepherd, and we went on a road trip to Washington, and I had a unfortunate encounter with a man. Thankfully I did not get hurt, but the only reason why I got out of there was because I had my dog with me. So I was very thankful that I had my dogs in this situation and that I had ways to protect myself. But if you do everything right, things still go wrong. So like I said, I followed my gut and I got out of the situation. I thought I would take some time to kind of talk about this side of the nomadic life, because I don't really talk about that on my channel. And I do think that it would be helpful, since I do have a lot of lady followers of pursuing a nomadic lifestyle. Now that we've talked about like the instance that has happened to me, we can kind of talk about ways that I prepare for, keeping myself safe. Like I said, not everything is in my control, but if I can control things, I'm gonna try to do my best to do the best I can. So first and foremost, observation. Be observant. I think that is probably one of the biggest things that you can do as far as protecting yourselves, is just knowing what's going on around you, knowing that there might be people over there, or that there's a certain situation taking place over there, knowing what kind of cars are in the area or who your neighbors are, just kind of being mindful. Also knowing exit strategies, where's the closest sheriff's department or police department. Do you have cell phone service? If you don't have cell phone service, have you notified someone to tell them where you are? Those are kind of some of the things that you can do right off the bat, like when you're cruising into a campsite, just looking around and assessing the situation before you get out of the car. Or if I'm gonna be at it, like even if I'm on a backpacking trip, or I'm gonna be camping somewhere that doesn't have service for an extended period of time, that I've got my inReach, that they know that if they don't hear from me by X date, something might be wrong. That way somebody is looking out for you, so that if you do end up going missing, or something ends up happening where you get hurt, or you just can't get out of a situation, at least somebody will know to notify the authorities. So the next topic is a little controversial, so I'm going to keep it very vague, but I do have several items that I can use for self-defense and for protection. I've got these items placed in various places that I could easily access, and I know how to use them. Anyway, I think it's important that if you're gonna have a tool that you're gonna use or rely on, that you know how to use it. And I keep myself trained and updated and refreshed on all of the tools that I have handy for self-defense. Another thing that I have, and I'm not going to go into too much detail because I don't want to give too much away in case I need it, is I also know various self-defense techniques. I've taken countless classes on self-defense, specifically women's self-defense, and I try to keep myself refreshed on these self-defense techniques and advance my skill set when I go into major cities and towns. A lot of the major cities and towns will offer the classes that I am a part of, and so I can go in and get a new class and actually spar with people. If I don't have that option, there are exercises that I do at camp to keep my muscle memory going, and I also can watch videos on YouTube or another social media platform where I can remind myself on how to do certain techniques or moves or anything like that, so that if I do end up having an attacker come after me, I can at least hopefully try to get out of the situation using my body. But I do want to say that everybody has their own comfort levels. Use that gut, it's there for a reason. Anyways, you guys, I'm gonna go ahead and wrap up this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up, share it with your friends and family, and please subscribe to the channel if you have not already done so and you'd like to follow along on my overlanding adventure. I will be getting work done on the car next week, so stay tuned for that. And if you want to see what kind of upgrades I make sure you hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. All right, y'all. I hope you all stay safe and have a very blessed day. Bye.